Now, Lesson 1. Designing a crime thriller book cover in Affinity Publisher. Follow this class along and design your own book cover, print ready. Now, Affinity Publisher is the bee's knees. There's no doubt. If you just need a front cover for your ebook, or both front, back and spine for your print book, brochures, newsletters, whatever, Affinity Publisher is definitely the way to go. It's a lot easier than it first looks. So let's set up the layout for your cover in Publisher. We're going to use a sample layout, obviously. This is not my real book. In this tutorial, we'll be creating a cover for a paperback book with B format dimensions. The dimensions are listed there. And a 16mm spine. Note, you can adjust the width of the spine to suit your own purposes by using the tools to adjust the width of the document later. And you can design your own spine width online. There are lots of places online. Just Google book spine width calculator. I might even put one in the lessons at the end of the class. So, step 1. Open Publisher and select New Document from the Welcome window. Or go to File, New Document. Same thing. Do not press OK to create the page. You do not want to create the page just yet. There's work to do. In the New Document window, set the type to Print and number of pages to 1 and uncheck Facing Pages. From the Print Page Reset drop-down menu, select Custom. Set the width to 130mm and the height to 198mm. They're the dimensions of your book, remember? Go to the little paper stack icon to the right of Page Preset and select Create Preset. Type in B format paperback into the name text box and click OK. Your setup will look like this. When you're finished setting up, your preset will be saved and you can open a new document and apply the presets easily when you need to. Not now, of course, but for later. This is the industry standard print size for a paperback, B format paperback. So if you're producing a lot of paperbacks, you need that preset. Do not press OK yet to create the page, remember. We've still got work to do. Step 2. In the New Document window, where you're working, set the margins to 8mm on all sides. See about the centre of the screen there, there's the Margins tab. And set the bleed to 3mm on all sides. And click OK. Now you have your page. This page is the correct size for the front of your cover only. Though we will want to submit a whole cover to the printer complete with spine and back cover, it's a really good idea to design your front cover first. This allows you to judge better how the cover will look from a reader's perspective when the book is on display in the bookshop. You can faintly see the bleed, margins and centre guide in the image below, and we'll use the tools later in the tutorial to include the spine and back cover on the document. But for now, let's work on the front cover alone as it is. From the left-hand ruler, drag a vertical guide out to 65mm. This marks the centre point of the front cover, which is helpful for when you start to place elements on the page. Now remember, if you're just designing a front cover for an ebook, then this front cover page is the only page you need. Okay, end of lesson 1, I think. So let's get right into lesson 2, shall we? Creating a backdrop. Step 1. Add a layer. So go to Layers, New Layer, or on the lower right down the bottom right hand corner, Add Layer. And click the Layer 1 to rename the layer as Image. So once you have the layer up in the Layer panel, click on it and then rename it to Image. Then click OK. Select the Rectangle tool and drag to create an image frame 58mm in width that extends across the page, meeting the edge of the bleed at the top, bottom and right sides. You can see it on the image there, with the left edge of the frame sitting just past the centre point of the page, as shown below. Go to File, Place, and select a suitable image for the backdrop of your cover. Now, I'm supposing here that you have a suitable image prepared for your cover. It doesn't have to be the exact size of your cover, it'll fit into place. But of course you don't want it smaller than the cover, otherwise stretching it will create problems with resolution. Choose something that would work well as a wallpaper across the back of the page with no significant features or people in it, and also that had a threatening claustrophobic feel. So for this one, remember it's a crime thriller and you want a threatening claustrophobic feel. That's the theme of the book. Alright, it's no good having a romantic cover on the front of a thriller. So you don't want people in it and you don't want significant features in this one. Make sure the photo in its frame is selected as shown by the blue dots and frame around it. Arrange the photo in the frame using the Properties icon in the top control panel. The top option of Scale to Max Fit is the one that will suit this image. Your image may require a different option, and it doesn't hurt to experiment with those 4 options. You can see them there with the red arrow pointing to it. Picture frame properties in the top image, and in the lower image there, between the 2 images, literally, is those 4 options of how your image is placed in that screen. Now with the frame selected, and you know it's selected by the blue squares, blue dots and square around it, right click on the object and go to Layer Effects, Gradient Overlay. Keep the type as linear and set the angle to 180 degrees. Maneuver the gradient stops into place as shown. Now there's another way of doing this which I'll show you later. Go to the Layers control panel and highlight the image layer. Select Duplicate to make another copy of the layer. Select this duplicate image layer and rename it Image 2. Drag it to the left side of your page, keeping it within the bleed borders on the left. Select the image frame and right-click or control-click, Transform, Flip Horizontal. Position this second frame to the left side of the page, mirroring the first image frame. And you can see it there. And in the right-hand side, in the studio, you can see your various images and their positions there. Grab the left edge of the new frame and drag so that it meets the trim edge of the page. You won't need to allow for a bleed on this side of the page, as this is where the edge of the spine will sit. Drag the center edges of each image so that they meet on the center guideline. Look carefully. You can see the left edge is on the trim, not the bleed. Both images, left and right, meet on the center guideline. Can you see that? On the right hand edge it's on the trim, on the bleed, on the left hand edge it's not on the bleed. But both images meet in the center. Okay, the end of this lesson. Lesson 3. Let's look at a couple of layers. Even though we already have a gradient effect applied to the images, any typography we apply to the cover will still likely get lost amongst the high contrast of the dark branches and white snow. So return to the Layers panel and lock the images. Lock the image layers. Click the Create New Layer icon at the bottom right of the panel. click the default layer name and rename the layer as Front Cover Artwork. Click OK or Enter. Now select the ellipse tool and holding Shift, drag to create a perfect circle about 113 millimeters in diameter. Position this centrally on the page, using the guide as a reference position, the top of the circle at Y position 42 millimeters. So it's 42, the guide is 42 millimeters from the top. Set the fill color to white. With the circle shape selected, select Transparency tool. That's the wine glass on the left hand side. Set the type, upper left, to radial. Click on White Ellipse and move the gradient stop into position as shown below, so the gradient appears very soft. Adjust to suit your image. Select the circle shape and Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. It will paste over the top of the first circle. Observe in the layer panel. It will look like there's still only one layer, but there is actually two. Either hold Shift to resize the circle or edit the measurements, resizing the circle to 44 millimeters. Position this second shape at the top right corner of the page as shown. We'll be layering a tagline over this a little later. I've coloured the circles slightly so they show more clearly here. Now let's introduce some thriller type typography. Go to the Layer panel and select and lock the Front Cover Artwork layer. Select the Add Layer icon and rename your new layer to Typography, as you can see in the image. We want to introduce three parts to the front cover text: the title, the author name and a tagline. So let's work on the title first. First up, let's select a typeface that's going to work well on our winter thriller cover. Look for something that looks dramatic when set in all caps. A strong sans serif will grab the reader's attention, and here I've chosen Futura. Select the Artistic Text tool and type the word the. Set the font to Futura, size 40 point and the tracking to -60. And set the character, the text, to all caps. Position the frame to the top left of the central white circle at Y position 60 millimeters. That's 60 mil on the Y axis, as shown below. Open the Swatches panel and create a new CMYK swatch, setting the percentages to the following values: C equals 19, M equals 98, Y equals 89, K equals 10. You can set a swatch by adding this colour to the swatch list. Set the text to this new red swatch. Create a second larger text with the Artistic Text tool and type the word winter. Set the font to Futura, size 86 point, and set the text again to all caps. With the text highlighted, go to Layer and convert to curves. You can see that layer selected in the image, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th section down in the menu, convert to curves. So it's reasonably easy to find. Take your time and watch where you're going. Now, with the text highlighted, set the colour to no colour. The text will become transparent. In the Layer section, hold the Command key and select all the individual letters of the group, as in this example. with the fill set to no colour, so in fact they do not display. This is just 3 of the letters of winter. With all layers selected, go to the top navigator and layer, convert to picture frame. That's just below where you used convert to curves. It's in the same menu section, convert to picture frame. With all layers converted to picture frames and keeping them all selected, go to File and Place. Find the file you want to use as the background of the text. In this case, I'm using an image of skulls. Select the image you're going to use and it will place itself into the text, as you can see in the example. Because the individual letters are converted to curves first, this allows you to alter the text in any way you wish. This is how I did the letter W, and you can see it's been enlarged without altering the other letters. I just dragged it slightly towards the bottom, just for a little bit of effect. On to the next lesson. Okay, the next step we'll carry on. Step 4, create a third text frame using the artistic type tool of about 100 millimeters in width and 35 millimeters in height. Type Killer into the frame and set the font to Futura medium, size 115 point and the tracking to -40. And set the text to all caps. Set the font colour to our favourite C19, M98, Y89 and K10. That's a blood red colour. You can also apply your save swatch from the previous chapter if you like. As a final touch, select this text frame and go to Effects, Drop Shadow. Introduce a very subtle drop shadow to the killer text by setting the opacity to 25% and under Options the size to 3 millimeters. That'll give you a slight 3 millimeter faint drop shadow around your text. Select the killer text frame you've just created and go to Edit Copy and Edit Paste. Adjust the font and the font weight to light condensed, size to 70 point or smaller depending on the actual name that you use, and tracking to 90. Align it to center and the font color to white. Adjust the text to Jack Vicious, as I've got here. I mean, you might use your own name. Position the frame towards the bottom of the page at Y position 167 millimeters. You can go to Objects, Effects, Drop Shadow as before and increase the opacity of the shadow to 65% and the size to 5 millimeters. Remember what you've done there, if that's a little confusing, you've selected the frame with the word killer in it and you've copied it and repasted it directly into place. It will actually sit over the top of the original word killer. But you can move it first or make some adjustments first. It won't affect the original frame with killer in it. And that's why I've said you can adjust the size and the point size and the colour and drag it down to where you want it. Y position 167. That's the Y axis with the top of the frame positioned at 167 millimeters. That might take a little bit of getting used to. Keep fiddling with it until you get it. Now the next step, step 6, finally we're creating a tagline for the front cover by selecting the type tool and creating a text frame about 80 millimeters wide and 17 millimeters in height. Position this frame at the top right corner of the page as shown below. Adjust it as needed. And in this you type an isolated cabin in the woods, paragraph break or new line, a family seeking reclusion, paragraph break or new line, a killer on the loose, and set the text to align right. Set the font to Futura size 15 point and the leading to 18 point and highlight the first two lines of the text and set the font colour to black. Set the font colour of the final line to our favourite CMYK red to give visual emphasis. Now's the time to make any minor adjustments to the layout until you're happy with the outcome. Once you're happy, you can start putting together the rest of the cover. And this is your cover so far, or something very similar to that, depending on the images you've used, the text, the wording, and so on. But once you've got this far, it means that you have the front cover of your ebook. The rest of the lessons are about doing the spine and the back cover. And we'll move on to that in the next lesson. Now then, let's talk about expanding the cover so that you have a spine and a back page. It might be a good idea to duplicate page 1 of your document in order to keep a copy of the front cover alone. In fact, it's a good idea to actually save your work at this point and then go to File, Save As, and save the entire document as a file with a different name, say front page only, for example. I mean, there's nothing like having a good backup. To make a duplicate of your existing page 1, click on page 1 in the navigator on the left, then click on Duplicate Page. Now, click page 2 of the document to bring it up on screen. Select the document setup from the selection panel and click once on page 2 of the document to select it. In Spread Setup, you will see two spreads, Spread 1 and Spread 2. Check Selected Spreads and it should highlight Spread 2, which is your page 2. Now navigate to the control panel and adjust the width of the page to 276 mm. This will allow for a back cover at the same width as the front cover, 130 mm, plus a 16 mm width spine. Now, big note here, make sure you unlock the lock pointed to here, or your page will resize. That's the lock between dimensions 276 and 198 mm. If you leave that locked, your page will resize to a much smaller page, which you don't want. Unlock all the layers in the Layers panel. Select all the elements on the page by selecting all the layers. Shuffle them along to the right until the image frames meet the edge of the right-hand bleed and relock your layers. You can see on the image there that everything is moved over to the right-hand side, right onto the bleed. If it wasn't before, it should be now. Now, step 2. From the left-hand ruler, pull out a vertical guide to 130 mm to mark the left edge of the spine. Pull out a second guide to 65 mm, marking out the centre point of the back cover. You can also pull out guides to 138 mm and 122 mm to mark out the centre point of the spine and the right-hand margin of the back cover. You can see the markers as you drag the bar. Place your cursor on the left-hand ruler and hold and drag to the right. Take your time, get it right. You can see the numbers appearing right on the page itself, so you don't have to squint and watch the ruler. Now, to design the spine. Note in this tutorial, we'll be creating a spine with a contrasting colour to the rest of the cover. Therefore, it's very important that the spine's dimensions on the artwork match the dimensions of the printed and bound spine exactly. When creating your own artwork for print, be sure to ask your printer to give you an accurate width for your spine before you're creating your cover artwork. and there are many places online where you can calculate your spine width by the paper you use and the size of your book, the word count, book size and paper weight. And I'll have one of those in the list of resources in any case. Now, return to the Layers panel and lock all the existing layers. Create a new layer and renaming it as Spine Artwork. Move this layer to sit below the typography layer and above the front cover artwork layer. Be careful not to have it end up as part of a group. It should be its own individual layer. Select the rectangle tool and drag to create a frame 16mm in width that sits between the guides, marking out the edges of the spine. Extend the length of the frame so that it extends to the top and bottom bleeds. Set the stroke colour to none and the fill colour to our favourite 19, 98, 89 and 10 for CMYK values. Now, select the rectangle frame tool and drag to create an image frame 16mm in width as before and 58mm in height. Position the frame at the bottom of the spine, resting the bottom edge on the edge of the bleed. Set the box colour to transparent if not already by default. Select the box you have just placed. Go to File and Place and select the skulls image or whatever image you are choosing as we used earlier for the front cover. The image should fill the rectangle. Select the transparency tool, that's the wine glass on the left side, and select the image in its layer panel. You'll notice the blue outline of the image over the spine marker box you just created, but there's no sign of the image yet. With the blue frame showing, place the pointer exactly on the bottom of the rectangle at the centre point and you will see a dot and a green vertical line appear with a dot on the bottom intersection of the vertical and horizontal line. Carefully click and drag the marker toward the top of the rectangle. The red background will appear and you will slowly move it toward the top of that frame. See the next slide for detail. With the blue frame showing, place the pointer exactly on the bottom of the rectangle at the centre point and you will see a dot and a green vertical line appear with a dot on the bottom intersection of the vertical and horizontal line. As I said before, carefully click and drag the marker towards the top of the rectangle. The red background will appear and you will slowly move it towards the top of that frame, thus exposing your image underneath. Okay, step 3. In the Layers panel, lock the Spine Artwork layer and unlock the Typography layer. Select the Type tool and drag to create a text frame 8mm in height and 45mm in width. Type Jack Vicious, which is the author name, and set the font to Futura, medium condensed, size 25 point, and in character set tracking to 90, all caps and font colour to white. Select the text frame and Control-click, select Transform and rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Position the text frame centrally on the spine. Select the text frame and Edit Copy and Edit Paste. After the text, alter the text to The Winter Killer, the font weight to light and the tracking to 0. You may need to extend the length of the text frame to accommodate the text. Position the frame centrally on the spine, just below the author's name. So you now have on the spine Jack Vicious and the Winter Killer. Now let's start creating the back cover. Your cover's starting to look more complete. Now all that's left to do is put together the design for the back of the cover. So return to the Layers panel and lock the typography layer, unlock the image layer and select the rectangle tool. Drag to create a frame which is 133 millimeters in width and 102 millimeters in height. Position the frame so that it covers the top half of the back cover, meeting the edges of the bleed to the top and the left. Next, go to File and Place and select the Winter Trees image we used earlier for the front cover. Arrange the image proportionally in the frame. Go to Transparency. Position the marker dot on the top bleed line. No image will be visible at this stage. Now click and drag the position dot downwards and slowly expose the image until you're satisfied. Select the image frame and Command C, which is copy, and Command V, which is paste, to create a duplicate of the image and frame. Click and drag the frame to the lower half of the page and Control-click Transform Flip Vertical. If the image is slightly misplaced, maneuver this second image frame to the bottom of the back cover, allowing the top edge to meet the bottom edge of the first image frame. Okay, step 2. In the Layers panel, lock the image layer, create a new layer, naming it as Back Cover Artwork. Position this below the typography layer and above the spine artwork layer. It helps to keep things organised if you've got things in the right places. This is a little more complex, this step, so take your time. Remaining on the back cover artwork layer, select the ellipse tool and hold Shift and drag to create a perfect circle 113 millimeters in diameter. Set the stroke colour to none and the fill colour to paper. With the shape selected, click the transparency tool, which is the wine glass. Click the centre dot in the shape. Go to the top left navbar, set the type to radial, click on the oval shape just to the right of type radial and it displays a selection interface. Now go to the top right of the colour display and set the colour to white. Go back to the type oval settings interface and drag the slider all the way to the right. You can observe the effects as you're doing this. Centre the circle shape on the back cover, resting the left edge against the left-hand margin and the right edge against the 122mm guideline, effectively the right margin of that circle. You'll need to place a barcode on the page if you're intending to sell the book in shops. So create a white frame using the rectangle frame tool and file and place a generated barcode image. Ensure the barcode image is large enough to be scanned with ease and don't crop the code too closely around the edges in case any of the code's data becomes illegible. I made this one 20mm by 45mm. It's a genuine barcode from one of my books. You can look it up if you like. Hey, buy a copy even. I also created a second frame just below the barcode, set in the favourites CMYK of 1998-89-10. This is a suitable place to insert pricing for the book, using the type tool to put this in. Now, lock the back cover artwork layer and unlock the typography layer. Select the ellipse tool and holding Shift, drag to create a circle 88mm in diameter. Set the stroke and fill colour to none and position the circle centrally on the back cover, right over the white circle. Select the type tool and click once inside the circle shape and pull out a text frame to fill the circle. Type the book's blurb, setting the font to Futura standard, medium, size 12 point and leading to 14.4 point, auto, align centre and font colour to black. You can highlight the first few lines of the blurb and make them slightly bigger, around 13 point, and pull out the first line in bold, and a red swatch, our favourite CMYK. For quote here, for example. Okay, next lesson. I think we're almost done. Okay, we're on the last bit. Exporting your book cover for print. Great work. Your cover artwork is complete and it looks awesome. Now all that's left to do is export the artwork to PDF ready for printing. So step 1, go to File, Export. To open the export window, select PDF for print from the Format drop-down menu. Name the file and click Save. In the Export PDF window, select PDF for print. In the area selection, select Current Page. You must have the double spread page highlighted, as it's the one you want if you've kept a copy of only your front cover on page 1. So make sure just page 2 is selected. Maybe you saved the front page alone in a separate file. That's okay, you just want this double page spread. Include the bleed, tick the box. Now that it's saved, well done. You now have your book cover ready to be sent to the printers. You can choose to print your cover on coated or uncoated paper stock, both of which have their own unique look and feel. Communicate with your printer before you send the artwork to print to receive samples and/or their advice on paper stock and weight. In this tutorial, we've learned how to create an attention-grabbing, genre-appropriate book cover for a winter crime thriller. The design traits for this genre include a bleak, photographic background and high-impact sans serif text rendered in bold, blood red and bleak monochrome colours. Good use of gradients gives the colour a sense of mystery and give the whole cover a blizzard-like appearance with pops of cold white light. Well, good luck in the future, because that's the end of our lessons. This is just a quick update. It's been drawn to my attention that the square box on the back of the cover may look a little bit better if it was done as a circular text box where the text conforms to the edge of the circle. So if you'd like that, if you want your text on the back page to conform to the circle you'll draw, do the following. Draw your circle of 88mm as outlined in the last few chapters of the lesson. Draw your circle of 88 metres, then go to Layers and convert to text frame. Then enter your text. So you can, from that point on, ignore the bit about doing the text box, etc., etc. Just draw the circle, convert to text frame and enter your text. Job done. How easy is that?